Hello, everyone. This is Antony Scandale, and I'm the author of Let Go, A Little Guidebook to Freedom. And today is actually a wonderful and exciting time for me. This is actually the very first podcast I'll be doing, and hopefully several more throughout the weeks coming up. And my first guest, I'm actually very excited to introduce you to him because I met him about almost a year ago at a Rock the Stage event. It's a seminar where you actually get to learn how to speak in front of people, and I tell you, Adrian was a wonderful speaker. You can just feel his voice, but when you hear him, you'll see why. So I just want to introduce you now to Adrian Starks. Adrian, thank you very much for joining me. How are you today?
Oh, I'm doing absolutely wonderful, Anthony. And let me tell you, I'm very grateful and thank you for allowing me to share this session with you today.
Yeah. You know what? This is a wonderful way to express to the world and show off the world who you are, because like I said, it was a wonderful thing just to watch you speak and just talk about your passion. But just give me one good reason as to why you are doing what you're doing, because I know you have a tagline, which I think it's about being a champion, and just elaborate on that for me, please.
Absolutely. And the tagline is "Believe the champion in you."
Love it.
And I just really believe that we're all winners in life. We were born to win. We were destined to win. But what happens is life can kick our butt at times, and life has different rules. And so we find ourselves falling down and not knowing exactly how to get back up, not knowing exactly what to do when we get back up. And a lot of us walk around thinking that we are not winning, that we're losing. And actuality is we're definitely winning just by being here. We just have to discover what it is that we really want to get good at doing and be specific as possible with it, and create a system that you can work within and begin to condition and train yourself. I chose the "Believe the Champion in You" tagline because it came from basically a nickname I was given as a child. My uncle nicknamed me Champ. And and as a child, I was this tenacious boy, very adventurous. I ran around a lot, did a lot of things. I refused to accept the word no. If I failed at something, I got back up, did it over and over and over again. And I was considered quite stubborn. But my uncle saw something different. He saw a child that was unwilling to let himself loose. He saw a child that had the belief and optimism to know that even when someone says you can't do it or no, he still managed to try it out for himself. And even to this day, I approach every obstacle or challenge in life with a winning curiosity. And that's how I feel that we should be. We should approach things with a winning curiosity. And the reason why I'm speaking, the reason why I'm here, is because I feel that this is what I am supposed to do. When you have something in your life that you gravitate towards, my whole life, I loved writing, I loved poetry, but most importantly, I loved getting in front of individuals and sharing a message, sharing a story, sharing a life lesson. And I realized that this was what I am supposed to do. And I was willing to get out there and give it a try.
You know, I have to completely agree with you because, and I didn't explain this earlier. We were together at Rock the Stage, which was with Carrie McGregor, a wonderful person. And when you came up, like it dawned on me that you had this sort of essence of a kind of like a Les Brown, which I think, if I remember correctly, is probably your favorite motivational speaker. Am I right with that one?
You are right on target with it.
Yeah.
And actually, I want to give just, definitely homage to Les Brown because he was the individual that I really heard his voice. And it woke me up, literally. You know, he has his line. He says that when life knocks you down, at least land on your back, because if you can look up, you can get up.
Yeah.
And that line, it made me get up in life. And when I was there, back to the Rock the Stage, for anyone listening here, you can always improve. You can always find ways to connect with other like-minded individuals to help enhance your skills or talents. And I was sharing this wonderful stage with Antony. And by the way, Antony is, he's being modest right now, but this man too has a presence about him that I saw as well. He had the ability to speak, the ability to connect with people, and the ability to just really understand the environment, which is a definite positive trait to have in this world. So, to whomever is listening, I would say to you that you all have a voice, you all have a
Yeah.
message, but you have to decide what kind of message do you want to convey out there in the world.
I like that, what you just said there, that we all have a story, we all have a message. Um, I find that sometimes people get wrapped up in the story and that they get bogged down with what's happened in the past. And I'm sure that there is some motivation with you to get up on the stage and to speak. What kind of drove you really to say, hey, enough's enough, let's get to the next level?
What really drove me was a situation of desperation. And I find that there's two emotions that move the human spirit: inspiration or desperation.
Right.
And usually it's a little bit of both, but it's usually the desperation that gets you really out of that pocket of discomfort. And there was a moment in my life where I faced a really huge failure. And the failure wasn't because of anyone else, although it was a situation I was in. I was in a relationship. But the failure came from me being unable, even during the time I was with that person, to be able to see that I had something really great to offer the world. I put everything on hold.
Right.
And I'm sure a lot of people have been this way, where you felt like you felt really good about something in your life and you decided that maybe it's not important to me because this is more important. And you put that on the back burner. And I did that and I still failed. And so, yeah, I still
Right.
failed.
Yeah.
And when that happened to me, I realized that, enough playing games. Do what you love in your heart. Let's get out here and let's get people to realize what their goals and dreams are. Don't let people fail the way you failed. And so that's why I'm here, is to help individuals see that there's more to life to give. And the secret to living, as Tony Robbins would say, is giving. And
Right.
unless you have an ability to say to yourself, I can give, then you're not going to receive. You're going to walk around life with closed arms.
Right.
And that's not an approachable person or an approachable spirit to have. So I realized that I needed to get out there and do what I love to do. And I had always been speaking. I was a spoken word poetry artist throughout Seattle. And
Interesting.
so I did poems.
Yeah.
I was on stage and I had this wonderful way of creating a poem, but making it to be in a story format that had a moral at the very end of it, a lesson to be learned. Ironically, during that time, I did not know that that was like the piece of a puzzle that I was placing myself in later down the road as a inspirational and motivational speaker.
Excellent. And that's something I didn't know about you, that you were involved with the poetry aspect of it. Do you do much? Do you add some poetry during your talks?
Absolutely. I've been known for my metaphors. I think that comes from the poetry of comparing things and to giving an imagery of something that you're trying to express.
Right.
And so that definitely comes through a lot of my speeches. And you'll hear when I'm speaking, you can see what I'm talking about just by the way I am bringing a visual image to you. And I feel this is a powerful way for people to connect in their own way, because we all see things differently. So if I'm telling someone something and I compare this moment to, let's just say, walking down this river with very calm water, and you are walking and you pick up a rock and you throw it across the water and these ripples go across, and life is like a ripple. It's a ripple effect. Whatever you do next,
Hmm.
it goes into the next thing. That person can see the ripples in the water and associate what they're doing with the ripple effect of life.
Right.
And this comes from the poetry that I did a lot around Seattle.
Now, could you share some poetry? Because I'm sure some people would like to hear some of it now that you've mentioned.
Uh,
Not to put you on the spot, but is there anything that sort of comes to mind?
I don't have anything on my memory right now because that was a while back, but
Right.
I do have a couple of, maybe a few sentences. I talked about time, and time having, this is like time on the clock or time in your life.
Right.
And I said, time has two hands, but it's unwilling to hand you all of its time. So you need to put your hand out and shake hands with time and make a deal with it and properly invest. And
Wonderful.
this is kind of part of the poetry of bringing the imagery, metaphors into a lesson and saying this is the steps you need to take.
That's wonderful. That's something you have to write down and like put your name in on it, and maybe come up with your own poetry. That's wonderful. No, I'm glad you shared that with me because, often it feels as though we have lots of time on our hands, and life moves so fast. I turned 40 not even a few months ago, and at times I'm like, oh, I remember that was from like 1994. But that was like, how long ago was that? And I look at the mirror and I'm like, yeah, I have changed a little bit. Time is it's deceptive. Like, you think you have all this time, but really all you have are these moments. And I agree with you 100% with that one.
Yeah. And Marcus Aurelius, Roman emperor, he said that,
Mm-hmm.
don't live your life as if you have 1,000 years to live.
Right.
And it's true. A lot of us, we live as if like tomorrow we can do it or the next day we can do it, but we have to do something right now.
Yeah.
And a lot of us don't know what time really is to us. It's a common commodity that all of us misuse. And I'll never forget, my life changed when I started realizing that I had something I wanted to go after. That's the most important thing for people to understand, to go after something that you feel in your heart of hearts, very passionate about and fulfilled about. And don't look at the result saying, what is this going to do? Look at it as, why am I approaching it?
Right.
And once you do that, then you say, okay, what do I do with time? Because that's the first excuse for a lot of us is I don't have enough time, or I wish I had more time. And the thing is that we all have 24 hours a day. There's not
Mm-hmm.
one person in the world that doesn't have 24 hours a day that's still breathing. They have 24 hours a day. The question is, what are you doing with your odd moments?
Right.
This is where a lot of us miss the odd moments, the moments where you're not doing anything. When you're driving, when you're waiting on someone, when you are, leaving work, if you're working a 9 to 5 job, which I, did, what are you doing when you're at home and, the clock says 7 p.m. and then there's a favorite TV show on it you want to watch, but you can TiVo it instead, so
Yeah.
what are we doing at that time, and it's hard for people to really see that you have all the time you need each day. It's just properly delegating yourself to work throughout the time.
Yeah, I agree with you. I mean, and I'm gonna, put raise my hand up and say I'm guilty of that. Sometimes I do find myself watching a TV show, but at the
And
same
I do
time,
too.
and there's nothing wrong with watching, some TV or something that just kind of numbs your brain a little bit, but it
Hmm.
kind of has to, I think, raise your spirits a bit. I mean, I try not to watch too many dramas. I would rather watch like comedy. I mean, right now I've been watching a lot of Seinfeld just to kind of keep my vibration up.
Hmm.
Other than that, it's hard for me to sit down and watch TV all day. Not like I used to when I worked at several TV stations where it was my job to watch TV. No, I've kind of taken a step back from that, but you're right. Like like what is that you do with your time? I mean, and you mentioned when you have those sort of down moments, like in your car, like what are you listening to in the car? Just out of curiosity.
For me, right now, my car is a university on wheels, literally.
Right.
So I listen to, of course, Les Brown. I have Jim Rohn,
Mm-hmm.
Zig Ziglar, Tony Robbins. I also listen to podcasts, and I'll be looking forward to listening to your podcast here. So that will be in my list of things to have. But I've been listening to the Bruce Lee podcast. His daughter Shannon had posted that up about a year
Oh,
ago.
really? What?
And
Wow.
yeah, and so it's called
Okay.
Bruce Lee Podcast. And so I listened to that because, oh, that man had a lot of insightful things to say.
No
And
doubt.
these podcasts are designed around the notes that he took during his time here on Earth. And he had a lot of deep meaning in what he felt about himself and authenticity and everything. So
Hmm.
I listened to that almost every other day. And that's pretty much in my car. And so for anyone listening, I'm not just a person that I just listen to this all the time. I don't watch TV at all. I do have another part of my life. So I love music. I do listen to inspiring music. You
Yep.
mentioned this before, Antony, about listening to something or watching something that's inspiring, uplifting for the soul, because you
Yeah.
need that. And so I do that as well. I listen to upbeat music, things that interest me. I have TV shows that I like to watch. I just watched a show called Blue Planet. I love learning about new things. And, And so when I do have moments, it is great to sit down and be able to watch something that, relaxes your mind, but also helps you to maybe think a little bit more about open things in life. So, but in my car, that's what I listen to.
Awesome. Yeah. Now, do you have any like any specific ones that you listen to over and over again? I certainly have maybe 4 or 5 that I listen to over and over and over, to the point where my mom is starting to realize if I give her a ride, she's like, "You're listening to that again?" And I'm like, "Yeah, because you'll never get it the first time around. You have to listen to it maybe 1,000 times just to get that one
Just,
message hammered
just
into
to
your
get it
head, right?"
down.
Is there
I
one
agree.
is there one that you specifically like that you listen to over and over again?
I listened to Earl Nightingale over and over again. I didn't add his name in that list, but there's a thing. Well, I think he did a 10. Um, I think it was called "Leading the Field." Yes, "Leading the Field," and it was a
Okay.
10-section audio on certain perspectives of courage, attitude, commitment, all these things. So I listen to that almost every day because there's, like you mentioned before, there's so much to learn, and the mind can only retain information, you know, so often. And so that one day when you're reading the book again,
Mm-hmm.
as you mentioned, when you're listening to the audio, the podcast again, that day could be the breakthrough that you find that one phrase and you say, why didn't I see that before? Or why didn't I hear it before? Now I got it. And that's why I think that we have to be very adamant about being consistent in the behavior of continuing to improve ourselves.
Right.
And if we do that, then we are going to be bound by consistency, the law of consistency, and expectation that we are going to improve something or have a breakthrough on the challenge that we didn't have a breakthrough on before.
I totally agree with you 100%. It's funny sometimes when I listen to an audio and or just reading a book. It's like, did they rewrite this book? Did they rephrase it? And it's no, and it's just because you just weren't ready for that information at the time. And then yeah, it's funny how you think you get things really clear, and then you keep turning the focus wheel just a little bit more, and then it gets more clear and clear, and it just and it's like it's at infinitum that there's you can't stop learning unless you just say that's it.
Mhm.
It's time to die. That's it. No more.
That's right. And this is why I tell, everyone about being a champion. Champions, we have this conception about a champion being someone that's only an athlete. We see that a
Right.
lot. Or
Yeah.
people that win something revolving around competition with another person, so to speak. But what a champion really is an individual who has a goal and they set themselves on a system of behaviors that
Mm-hmm.
allow them to have the courage to continue on with consistent habits that allow them to be able to grow and to accomplish the task that they are seeking. And when we talk about, like you were mentioning before, about, reading things over and over again or listening to something over and over again, that's like practice. It's like if you're wanting to lose
It
weight or if you're
is.
wanting to tone up in the area, you're going to go back and work on that area again and again and again until you see the results, because eventually there's a breakthrough. It's the same thing with literature when you're listening to audio. If you're wanting to improve, you may say, well, I'm not getting everything right now. That's okay.
Mm-hmm.
Continue to practice, continue to condition yourself, and eventually you'll expand enough to be able to take in more information.
I love it. I hate to cut this short. Thank you very much, Adrian, for joining me today. Before you go, let's just let the listeners know where they can find you. Do you have a website of some sort?
Absolutely. I have a website that is released now called championup.net. Just like it sounds,
Champion.
championup.net. You can find me on Facebook as Adrian Starks. I go by the nickname Champ. So I'm
Right.
Adrian the Champ Starks. You can find me on Instagram at A_star, STAR underscore champ, A star champ. I'm also on Twitter as Adrian R. Starks. And you can also find me on LinkedIn. So I'm on all social media platforms.
Excellent. And you know what? And on top of which, you're going to be doing another speaking event soon. Am I right?
I am. I have an event coming up in Los Angeles, California,
Oh, good for
that will
you.
take place in July. And I will be having the details of that event on the website and the social media. And to the viewers or to the listeners that are wanting to know what does champion up mean, because I just threw that at you guys.
Right.
Champion up means getting your champion back up in life. I believe that we're all champions. A lot of us were sitting down, a lot of us are laying down, a lot of us are not wanting to get back up because we feel we're not worth it. We feel that we don't have enough in us. And the thing is, you do. You have to let your champion know, that part of you, that real part of you, know that there's more winning to do no matter what you approach. You may not have a goal right now, you may not have a dream, but you can become a champion father, a champion mother, a champion spouse. You become a champion friend, you become a champion teacher, you can become a champion you. Whatever it is that you feel connected and drawn to, there's always ways to win more at that interaction.
I love it. Adrian, thank you again for joining me today on the very first podcast. And yeah, have a wonderful day. We'll
Thank
keep in
you.
touch. And you know what? Anytime you want to come on by to chat with me, let's do it. I'll be ready here for you.
I would love to do that, and I am looking forward to the podcast. I'm just happy to know you, Antony. Thank you so much.
You too, brother. We'll talk soon. Take care. And yeah, we'll see you in a couple weeks. Take care,
All right,
everyone.
we'll see you then.
Okay, take care. So I want to thank all of you listeners today. I hope to come up with some more podcasts coming up soon in the near future. If you want to know more about what I do, you can go to my website at antonyscandale.com. That is AntonyScandale.com. In fact, shoot me an email because I'm still looking for a name for my podcast. I've got a few in mind, but perhaps maybe you can come up with something. Drop me an email at support@antonyscandale.com and I'll give away some prizes. We'll talk to you soon, and remember, ignite your inner power and watch your world change. Take care, everyone.